Have you ever felt it? That quiet, unsettling hum beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect day. The feeling that even when you're ticking all the boxes, following all the rules, and smiling for the camera, something is fundamentally off. It's as if you were handed a divine blueprint for a life of joy at birth. But somewhere along the way, a crucial page went missing, and now you're left with a profound sense of spiritual dissonance. You look at the world, with its relentless chorus of "be happy," and a silent scream builds within your soul, asking, is this all there is? If this message already resonates with the depths of your being, let the universe feel your frequency. Affirm your truth by liking this video, subscribing for more sacred wisdom, and declaring, "I am not alone," in the comments below. Your energy is a beacon, and it's time to let it shine. We are born into a world that has already written a script for us, a grand narrative centered around one single, luminous goal: happiness. We are told, from our very first breath, that we not only have a right to it, but that we deserve it. It is presented not as a fleeting, precious visitor, but as a permanent state of being, a guaranteed reward for simply participating in the game of life. This idea is woven into the fabric of our culture, whispered in the lullabies of our childhood, plastered on the billboards of our aspirations, and encoded into the very algorithms that shape our daily lives. The pursuit of happiness, they tell us, is the centerpiece of the modern human story. It's the sun around which all our other planets, our decisions, our relationships, our identities, are meant to revolve. We are conditioned to believe that joy should arrive as predictably as the morning sun, a natural consequence of being alive. And so, we internalize this sacred contract. We begin to believe that any deviation from this state of perpetual bliss is a sign of personal failure. Unhappiness is no longer a natural, cyclical part of the human experience. It has been pathologized, turned into a malfunction, a glitch in our spiritual software. It's no longer just an emotion, it has become a destination we are all racing towards, and the fear of not arriving is a constant, gnawing anxiety. This relentless pressure is amplified 1,000 times over by the world around us. Across the glittering, curated landscapes of social media, in the seductive promises of advertising, within the pastel-colored pages of self-help books, and echoed in the sanitized slogans of pop therapy, a single, mechanical narrative repeats itself with hypnotic precision. Be positive, practice gratitude, choose joy. You must understand, this isn't just advice, it's a command. It is a new moral imperative. We are no longer simply allowed to feel good, we are expected to, we are commanded to. Optimism has been twisted into a moral duty, and the act of smiling through the pain, of forcing a brave face against the inner tempest, is celebrated as the ultimate sign of strength. But what lies beneath this shiny, manufactured surface? Beneath the veneer of forced positivity lies a quiet, crushing pressure. It is a silent weight, pressing down on anyone who dares to wake up feeling low, tired, confused, or just not okay. Because in this culture we have built, unhappiness is not just seen as unpleasant, it is treated as unacceptable. It is a social taboo, a spiritual failing that must be corrected, medicated, or hidden away. And so, the natural, rhythmic fluctuations of human emotion, the sacred ebb and flow of our inner tides, become problems to be solved. They become symptoms to be treated, weaknesses to be overcome. This is the new, unspoken dogma of the happiness age, that every single moment of our existence must be curated for joy. That discomfort is a sign of failure, and that emotional pain is a glitch in the system that needs to be fixed or erased. But what if this entire premise is a profound deception? Real life, in its raw and unfiltered majesty, simply does not work that way. Happiness, like any feeling, like the very breath in your lungs, is transient. It comes and it goes. It rises and it falls. When we begin to believe the illusion that it should be a permanent fixture in our lives, we begin to live in constant fear of its opposite. We start to reject the very parts of ourselves that don't align with the script we've been handed. The irony, the great cosmic joke, is this: the more desperately we try to force happiness, to clutch it in our hands, the further and faster it slips away. Because the moment it transforms from a spontaneous gift into a rigid obligation, it stops feeling like freedom. It becomes just another cage. For so many souls awakening on this planet right now, the effort to stay positive becomes an exhausting, full-time performance. It is a quiet, hidden war waged between what we truly feel in the depths of our being and what we are told we should feel. The more we chase happiness like a duty, the more disconnected we become from the authentic currents of our own emotions. We start to doubt ourselves, not just because we're sad or anxious, but because we fundamentally believe we shouldn't be. We feel guilty for feeling bad. We become ashamed of our own minds, embarrassed by the beautiful, complex, and sometimes chaotic landscape of our inner world. This isn't just emotional exhaustion, it is a deep spiritual confusion. Because when every tear must be tucked away behind a smile, when every fear must be coated in a layer of performative gratitude, we begin to lose touch with something absolutely essential. We begin to lose touch with our own humanity. And in this chaos of forced joy, a terrifying silence creeps in. An unsettling question we try desperately to ignore begins to echo in the quiet moments. If I'm doing everything right, why do I still feel so wrong? The great philosopher Søren Kierkegaard knew this tension intimately. He saw that happiness is not our natural resting state, not a guaranteed outcome of a good life, but a fleeting visitor, a moment of divine grace that only makes sense when contrasted with the anxiety, despair, and longing that truly shape the human condition. To be alive is not a mandate to be happy. It is an invitation to be aware, to feel deeply, to wrestle with the immense weight of existing in a world that is at once breathtakingly beautiful and brutally painful. Arthur Schopenhauer went even further. He argued that life, by its very nature, was never meant to make us happy. He saw that suffering isn't a bug in the system, it's the default setting. To expect life to deliver a constant, uninterrupted stream of joy is to fundamentally misunderstand what it means to be alive. Because when we turn happiness into an expectation, every ordinary moment becomes a potential letdown, and every natural discomfort becomes another problem to be fixed. We scroll through an endless gallery of perfect mornings and smiling faces, and somewhere deep inside, a small, wounded voice whispers, "Why not me?" We mistake the curated for the real. We compare our worst days, our most vulnerable moments, to someone else's carefully constructed highlight reel, and we come up short, again and again and again. The result isn't joy. It's a haunting, pervasive sense of inadequacy. The feeling is no longer just, "I'm not happy," but a much more corrosive belief, "I'm not enough." And so, we chase harder. We buy the books, we download the apps, we force the mantras, we push ourselves to be more grateful, more mindful, more optimistic, until our inner world becomes a battlefield. But what if the problem isn't that we're sad? What if the problem is that we're not allowed to be? This is the great deception, the foundational lie of modern life, that the purpose of living is to be happy, and that if we're not, we are fundamentally broken. But you are not broken. You are simply human. And maybe, just maybe, this is the deeper truth that sages like Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer were trying to tell us all along. That real life, the kind that moves us, shapes us, and wakes us up, isn't found in a state of constant happiness. It's found in the full, magnificent spectrum of feeling, even the dark ones. Especially the dark ones, because it is there, in the shadows of our experience, that we begin to find something far more real and lasting than happiness. It is there that we find meaning. And as we search for answers to this deep yearning, we are handed solutions, not from wise philosophers, but from clever marketers. Because in today's world, happiness isn't just a feeling, it's a product. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry dressed in pastel colors and soothing voices. We're told that inner peace is just one app away. That clarity comes with a monthly subscription. That fulfillment can be unlocked through a 5-step morning routine or a new journal with gold-foiled pages. We are offered meditation tools, digital detox retreats, gratitude challenges, and dopamine hacks, each one packaged as the missing piece to a puzzle that never, ever seems to be complete. And it's not just the products, it's the people selling them. The influencers, with their perfect skin and constant smiles, whispering gentle affirmations while sipping matcha under soft, ethereal lighting. The message is painfully clear. This is what happiness looks like. This is how success feels. This is who you should be. But what happens when you look in the mirror and you don't see that person? What happens when you wake up tired, anxious, and unmotivated, and the world simply tells you to just think positive? You start to wonder if something is fundamentally wrong with you, because no one posts photos of themselves crying at midnight. No one live streams their breakdown in the grocery store parking lot. No one shares the crushing weight of quiet dread that can sometimes accompany the dawn. And so we compare our real, messy, unfiltered lives to a carefully edited highlight reel, and we wonder why we feel like we're falling behind. This is not motivation, it's manipulation. Because once you believe that happiness is something you should have but somehow don't, you become the perfect customer. Always, almost there, always one purchase away, always one breakthrough short of arrival. And in that gap, that chasm between what you are and what you're told you should be, a market is born. Not for healing, but for hope. Not for freedom, but for the illusion of control. This is not self-help, it's self-surveillance. And the cost is not just financial, it's emotional, it's existential. Because slowly, quietly, we begin to measure our worth by how well we perform the role of the happy person, and we forget how to simply be a human one. Over time, the message becomes internalized. If you're not happy, the problem isn't the world, it's you. You didn't visualize hard enough. You didn't meditate long enough. You weren't grateful enough. You didn't buy the right course, read the right book, follow the right coach, or fix your mindset fast enough. And so, unhappiness slowly shifts from being a human experience to being a personal failure. It becomes a sign that you're broken, that you miss something essential, that you need to be fixed. And what's the solution offered? Do more, buy more, change more. Upgrade your morning routine, rewire your thoughts, optimize your lifestyle, because clearly, who you are right now isn't enough. This is the trap, the loop with no exit. The treadmill that speeds up the faster you run. Because every fix promises relief, but only delivers another standard to reach, another version of yourself to chase, another reason to feel like you're still not quite there. And when the promise doesn't hold, when the positive thinking fails, when the high wears off, you're left with the same emptiness, only now with a fresh, heavy layer of shame. Because now you believe it's your fault. You believe that your suffering is a sign of your own inadequacy, that if you were just better, you'd feel better. So you begin again. You download the next app, you join the next course, you follow the next soothing voice telling you to breathe, to smile, to stay positive, while quietly, your inner world aches beneath the surface. You start hiding your sadness, filtering your grief, tucking your discomfort behind curated quotes and bright, hollow emojis, until eventually you forget what you really feel at all. You don't live your emotions, you manage them, you curate them, you censor them for the sake of keeping up the image of someone who's got it all together, and that is where the real damage deepens. Because when your life becomes a constant performance of happiness, you lose connection with the parts of yourself that don't fit the role. The anxious parts, the angry parts, the restless, grieving, questioning parts, the parts that are human and real and raw. The very parts that carry the seeds of growth, of truth, of meaning. Kierkegaard called this state despair. Not just sadness, not just suffering, but the condition of being out of alignment with your true self. Despair, he wrote, is the sickness of a soul that lives for something other than its own essence. It's not knowing who you are, or worse, knowing exactly who you are but being too afraid to live it. It's shaping your life around a script, an ideal, an image that never came from within you. It's smiling when you want to scream. It's chasing an idea of joy that was never yours to begin with. And the deeper you go into this performance, the further you drift from the center of your own life, until one day you wake up, surrounded by all the things that were supposed to make you whole, and you feel more lost than ever. Because the greatest deception isn't that happiness is impossible, it's that it must come at the cost of your authenticity. And once you trade your truth for someone else's version of joy, no amount of positive vibes will ever be enough. When sadness is treated like a flaw, we lose the ability to simply be with what is. We no longer see sorrow as part of the human experience, but as a mistake to be corrected quickly, quietly, and preferably without leaving a mark. Instead of listening to what our pain might be trying to tell us, we silence it. We distract ourselves. We scroll. We keep moving. We pretend we're okay, even when every part of us is calling for rest, for reflection, for truth. Over time, this avoidance becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a profound disconnection, not just from our emotions, but from ourselves. The more we resist sadness, the more foreign and terrifying it begins to feel. And when it does visit, as it inevitably will, we panic. We see it not as a messenger, but as a threat. We reach for solutions, for fixes, for the nearest distraction, because sitting in sadness feels like weakness. It feels like failure. But sadness has always been a kind of teacher. It slows us down for a reason. It asks us to stop pretending. It pulls us inward towards something quieter, deeper, more honest. And when we refuse to allow it, when we treat it as something shameful, we lose the very ability to stay present with what is real. We become strangers to our own inner world. This is the cost of living in a culture obsessed with happiness. The constant pursuit of joy leaves us restless, exhausted, hollowed out. When every moment must be light and uplifting, we begin to live on the shallow surface of things. We chase good vibes, perfect routines, and positive energy, while quietly fearing anything that feels heavy, unclear, or uncomfortable. But this performance takes its toll. Beneath the curated smiles and motivational mantras, a quiet fatigue starts to build, a tension. A sense that no matter how much we do, we're always one step away from enough. In trying to stay up, we forget how to go deep. In trying to be okay all the time, we lose the capacity to be fully alive. Joy without contrast becomes noise. Life without emotional depth becomes mere repetition. And a self that is never allowed to feel pain becomes a self that slowly disappears. Those moments of loneliness, anxiety, or inner crisis, once seen as gateways to depth, are now treated like malfunctions. Instead of asking what they might be revealing, we rush to shut them down. We meditate, manifest, and repeat affirmations, not always as a path to presence, but often as a means of escape. Emotional pain is no longer something to explore, it's something to fix, a glitch in the system, a stain on the image. We've turned every difficult emotion into a public relations problem, something to manage, reframe, and spin. And in doing so, we miss the sacred invitation. Because these moments, the quiet ache, the sleepless doubt, the collapse we didn't plan, carry more than just suffering. They carry depth. They hold questions we've spent years avoiding. They open doors we wouldn't have walked through on our own. But if all we're trained to do is chase the light, we'll never learn how to navigate the dark. We'll never discover that our discomfort isn't the enemy. It's a signal, a mirror, a message that something deep within us is asking to be seen. Schopenhauer understood this long before the age of dopamine hacks and lifestyle branding. He saw clearly that happiness is not something we can hunt, purchase, or manufacture. The more we chase it, the more it recedes. The more we demand it, the more fragile it becomes. In his eyes, happiness wasn't a prize at the end of effort, but the quiet byproduct of something else entirely: acceptance. The simple, often uncomfortable act of seeing life as it is, without filters, without resistance, without expectation. To live well, Schopenhauer argued, is not to feel good all the time, but to stop insisting that life must always feel good. Pain is not proof that we have failed. Sadness is not a detour. Anxiety is not a defect. These are not signs that something is wrong with us. They are signs that we are alive, fully, humanly. And when we stop pathologizing the harder parts of life, something remarkable happens. We soften, we slow down, we begin to make peace with the full spectrum of what it means to be. In that space, happiness loses its tyrannical grip on us. Not because we've given up, but because we've stopped demanding that life be anything other than what it is. And ironically, it is there, in that surrender, that something deeper, steadier, and far more honest begins to emerge. It's not the loud, triumphant joy we've been sold in commercials or TED Talks. It's something softer, quieter, more rooted. A calm that doesn't depend on everything going our way, but on our willingness to stay with what is. When we stop asking, "Why am I not happy yet?" and instead ask, "Can I be present with this moment, exactly as it is?" we reclaim something essential. We stop fighting our inner world. We stop labeling emotions as good or bad, and we begin to meet ourselves fully, honestly, for perhaps the first time. This is not the kind of peace that comes from avoiding pain. It's the kind that arises when we move through it, when we stop running from our darkness and begin to listen to what it's asking us to see. Kierkegaard called this path one of despair, not as something to escape, but as something to move through. For him, despair wasn't just sadness. It was the state of being disconnected from one's true self. The crisis that arises when we build a life around who we think we should be, rather than who we truly are. And the only way out, he believed, was in through the fear, through the doubt, through the death of old illusions. It's not a comfortable journey. It's not marketable. It can't be packaged into a morning routine or sold as an online course, but it is the only path to real freedom. Because when we allow despair to do its work, to strip away the false layers, to burn down the scripts that no longer serve us, we are left with something raw and real, a self that no longer performs, a self that no longer hides. And from this place, a new kind of life begins to take shape. One not built on the constant pursuit of feeling good, but on the deeper rhythm of truth. A life where joy is not demanded, but discovered. Not forced, but felt gently, unexpectedly, in moments that were never part of the plan. This joy isn't flashy. It doesn't always look like happiness from the outside. It doesn't need to, because it's not a show. It's an inner state, a groundedness, a quiet alignment between who we are and how we live. It can live side by side with sadness. It can hold grief and gratitude in the same breath. It's not about erasing pain. It's about holding it with tenderness, without letting it define us. And perhaps this is the ultimate liberation, to stop trying to feel something all the time, and to start allowing everything to be exactly as it is, to stop performing joy and start living truth. To stop asking the world to deliver happiness and begin bringing presence to whatever the world brings to us. Because the truth is, life isn't always joyful. It isn't always light. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's heavy, and sometimes it breaks us open so something deeper can grow. And if we can learn to trust that process, if we can stop resisting the harder moments and start showing up for them, we just might find that the peace we've been chasing was never out there at all. It was here, inside us, all along, waiting for us to stop running. This kind of peace can't be bought. It can't be hacked. It doesn't come from affirmation apps or vision boards. It comes from being fully alive, messy, uncertain, and real, from honoring the full spectrum of what it means to be human, from daring to live without a mask, and from finding, in the stillness of our own truth, something far more powerful than happiness: wholeness.